Welcome everyone, this is JT at Rubber City Motoring. Back on the Corvette, little fun upgrade. I like these fun ones, these small ones that don't require something major. It could, but this is a simple bolt-on, the SLP Blackwing cold air intake, induction system, whatever you want to call it. We're basically putting this on. New parts, and it does say Blackwing. If you're an old F-body fan, or Trans Am, I believe the Firehawk had it as well. In the 90s and 2000s, they offered a Blackwing intake for the SLP Camaro as an option. If you ever find one of these, that air lid on the Camaro, if it says Blackwing, those are worth some bucks. They don't have them, you don't see them much, and they were offered as an option. You probably could have bought it aftermarket. I don't know, I had an SLP lid on mine, but it definitely wasn't a Blackwing. It felt cheaper and that. Now, this is a whole different thing here. It does say SLP on the back here. This is basically just bolting a big filter, as you can see, in place of our factory airbox there. Lots of options for this car. Everything from, there's a Callaway honker that almost looks stock, to a K&N that replaces all of it, to this. You know, you go back and forth with these. Is it worth the money? Is it not? Does it add any power? I mean, these things, they can help your car breathe a little better. It's definitely something you don't want to skimp on if you're doing a major build. Now, on my stock LS here, I don't know, maybe a little bit here and there. I'm probably going to expect a little bit more sound on throttle, but you know, as far as like air whistling and noise and throttle noise and that. But we're going to get this on here. I'm not going to do a full, complete walkthrough, but I'll give you the basics, and we'll go from there. The big thing, though, they do have with this, actually two things. First off, they say you have to download your instruction manual, which I did. Easy to find on the website. And this is news to me. I'm 10 years late. Roush owns SLP. I had no idea. I even owned my Camaro when this happened, and I had no idea that Roush bought SLP in 2013. So here we go. Let's get to the car, and we'll get this going here. One of the gifts and the curses with the Corvette is, of course, the backwards opening hood. They all open that way for the most part, at least on C5 anyway, and it blocks your easy to get to. That's what we're getting rid of right there. That whole thing is the factory air intake. And whereas if you had a car where it opened this way, you could just stand at the front and do it. But first steps are start removing stuff, including mass airflow sensor, and we'll get this going here and compare the two, because this is, I believe it should be on there, the early C5, because this is a 99, the early C5 air intake. And if you look at, there's different versions of that. There's a Z06 one, there's a later one, there's I think 3. So this should be the early one that's pretty restrictive. So with this thing running, it's pretty quiet up front here. I'm curious if that SLP is going to be any louder, but it's a real restrictive setup here, and I'll show you what I mean. Here's our look with nothing. No intake tube, no mass airflow, no filter setup. Being the early C5, we've got a temperature sensor there, and that's our mass airflow connector there. Now to put it all together with the new filter. And the factory setup went a little something like this. This, like I said, is the early one. If you look at a Z06 one, it's got a big hole right on there. I think the later C5s had a little bit bigger opening, more air. Right here, this is how the filter went. It slid in there like so, standard paper filter. I'll trash that. I'll keep everything else. These were kind of the clamps that held it all together. So we reuse quite a bit of this and attach it to the new filter. So here's pretty much our finished product. Got the Blackwing with a clamp they supplied, mass airflow, factory clamp, factory boot. Looks cracked, but it's not. Air bridge, bellows, factory clamp. This clamp stayed the same. This one actually does pop off easily if you are forceful, but it snaps back on pretty easily. So now we fit it back into the car. Mine being an early C5, I did need to install this elbow here for the air system. And they give this thing to you. It's a little filter life monitor there. So being that I don't drive this car a ton, I assume this filter is going to last long enough, we'll say. But it's definitely new. Looks cool. And we are installed. Not too hard. These little grommets are a little tricky. But if we swing around here, you can see it right there through the crack there. These grommets weren't as hard as I expected up on front, but pretty simple. Now let's hear what it sounds like.